everyone, my name is Della Rossa, and I am a Toronto-based singer-songwriter, flutist, and educator, and the creator and host of the Bedroom Studios podcast. The podcast where we talk about what goes on behind the scenes in the musician's world and bridge the industry gap by bringing their stories, expertise, and advice to early career artists. Subscribe to join us for a fun chat about life as a creative person, tips and tricks for pursuing an artistic career, navigating the music industry, and more. Today, I will be interviewing the amazing Casey McQuillan. Whether touring to hundreds of thousands of fans across the US and Europe, opening for artists including James Morrison, Beverly Knight, Marty Pellow, and Eric Hutchinson, appearing on The Kelly Clarkson Show, or gaining a loyal fan base as a powerhouse vocalist on American Idol, Casey has accomplished so much in her short career. Her debut album, Skinny, which includes the hit single In and Out, a duet with John McLaughlin, found its way into several major playlists, being spotlighted by the likes of Apple Music and Amazon Music, as well as featured on MTV and CMT, and SiriusXM The Pulse. Additionally, Casey has performed her anti-bullying concert series, the You Matter Tour, at over 100 middle and high schools for over 40,000 students. Casey graduated summa cum laude from Berklee College of Music in 2016, with degrees in both music business management and songwriting. In our conversation, Casey shared so many amazing insights about her songwriting process, her experiences touring and performing, and how she built her career as a singer-songwriter. I hope you enjoy episode 13 of the Bedroom Studios podcast. First of all, welcome to the podcast. I'm very happy that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's fun to be here. Fun to see you again.
Yeah, I adjusted the format a little bit to start with us listening to one of your songs. So,
okay, amazing.
I was wondering if you wanted to give a little bit of an intro to your song, Skinny.
So this is a song of mine. It's the title track on my new album. And it is a song that I wrote about like body dysmorphia, but more particularly the pain of having to deal with knowing how much easier your life would be if you walked around in a smaller body, and letting go of that fantasy. I think a lot of plus size women, the world lets you know that the world wishes you were smaller. And it's hard not to internalize that. And as the pandemic ended and I finally got to go back to the bars and all of that, I had the experience of, being out in public and being out at the bars and not having as good of a time as I had hoped and anticipated, because I spent so much of the night thinking about how much better the night would be going if I were in a thinner body. And I wrote this song to give voice to those feelings and validate myself in that. But also my favorite part of the song is the bridge, because in the bridge is when I acknowledge and reflect with myself that in order to be thin, I would have to give up a lot of things about myself that I like. Like I like that I love going out to eat with my friends, and I love bread, and I love wine, and I love all of these things, and I love the carefree attitude that I get to have towards food, and I love existing in my body as it is naturally. And the person I would have to become in order to shame myself into a thinner body is not somebody that I want to be. And so if I have to pick between being me and being skinny, I pick me. So this is my song Skinny, and I hope that you like it.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
She grabs a dress from the back of my closet, the short one I haven't worn since I bought it. A little lipstick, glitter eyelids, just a touch, there's nothing she's hiding. With all my friends she poses for pictures, post it quick, no thought, no filter. She calls me pretty, we both know she wouldn't trade places, wouldn't trade faces with me. I watch her all night, dance around the room, living my life like I always wanted to. She's stuck in my mind, a vision who I'm supposed to be. she goes home, she's never alone. I leave the bar, a hole in my heart again. I watch her all night, dance around the room, living my life like I always wanted to. She's stuck in my mind, a vision who I'm supposed to be. She's happier than me, skinny. And I see her in all my reflections. She's a figment of future perfection, but I'm not so sure I'd actually prefer to be her, cause she don't eat pizza at 2 a.m. Sitting out on a stoop with her friends. She won't drink too much, she'd hate to end up to never enough. I watch her all night and dance around the room, living my life like I always wanted to. She's stuck in my mind, a vision who I'm supposed to be. She's happier than me, skinny.
So beautiful.
Thank you.
There's such a relatability to it. A lot of us, whether it be like with body image or with just like other ways of how we see ourselves, there's so many things telling us to be less of who we are.
Yeah, I think lots of systems are dependent on people disliking themselves. Capitalism is dependent on that. The patriarchy is dependent on that. If we're quite literally spending our time and resources into making ourselves smaller and weaker in order to socially fit in, we have less mental and emotional energy to heal and question and express the other much more interesting and important parts of ourselves outside of our bodies. But from an incredibly young age, girls are told that their bodies first and foremost are what are most important about them, and everything else is secondary. And so I've been in a phase of my life of trying to work through that and question that. And it's been a very cathartic and challenging experience to perform this song over and over and over in front of thousands of strangers every night, because it takes on a life of its own and people have their own reactions to it. And it is interesting to kind of lead a experience for so many people that I don't know, while we're sitting in those rooms together, hearing this, and they're hearing the song for the first time. It's interesting to be helping and guiding people working through that in a way, while also still working through those things myself and still trying to, be confident in myself. It's been an interesting juxtaposition.
Mm-hmm. How do you create that balance, even with this song and with any other song you perform, of kind of expressing the emotions and emoting on stage, but also putting on a performance and not kind of just, like not crying on stage, or like feeling it so much that
I do cry on stage sometimes. Yeah. Especially when I first wrote this song, I think I cried the first maybe 5 times I played it on stage. I mean, I think there is a balance, right? You need to maintain, quite literally as a singer, it's a physical expression. And so there's a level of like, you got to keep it together to a certain extent. Like one time I was singing as a friend of mine walked down the aisle, and I quite literally closed my eyes while she was walking, because I was like, I'm gonna actually cry. I got to get this song out. This isn't about me. But I also quite actively try to engage with the emotions that I was experiencing when I wrote the songs, right? Songwriting is very cathartic for me. And so very ironically, like writing the songs sometimes really helps me work through what I'm singing about. But I'm aware, especially because I've been doing a lot of work as like an opener. So I've been opening for large audiences that aren't familiar with my work. And I tend to introduce songs and give a story behind the song to help the audience engage with like brand new material. Mm-hmm. And because I'm doing that, I am, these people came on a Saturday night to have like a good time, and my show is really fun, but then I'll like plop down a song like Skinny. And I am basically like slapping the audience in the face with like a therapy session on a Saturday night, 3 drinks in. And I think it's really important that I authentically try to engage those emotions with the audience as they engage them. And so a lot of the time, like recently, I've been singing Skinny. And I think it's my favorite part of the whole show is that moment at the end of the bridge where everything drops out. I'm very proud of the fact that as an opener, I have the audience quiet. Like they are with me and like you could hear a pin drop. And that's how I know I've got a show. Is like if I get to that point on a Saturday night in Manchester, England, and they're dead silent and they're waiting for that moment. That's so beautiful to me as a performer, and I appreciate people's attention so much. And I'm regular thinking about how I'm singing words about not loving myself while being very proud of myself in the moment for my skills and my ability, and also being hyper aware that everyone's looking at my body at that exact moment because I'm singing about it. And sometimes, most of the time, I would say on stage, I feel good about that. I'm like, good. Like I know, because I have fans tell me that when I walk on stage, as I'm very loud and confident and boisterous and all these things. And I bring that energy with me on stage. And I've had other, plus size women tell me that like seeing me on stage, even before I sing Skinny, they don't know I have that song coming up, was very validating for them, because they were like, well, that girl is hot. And that girl is just, everyone's just looking at her because she's good at her job, not because, and she doesn't seem to care that she's not skinny. And then I think the experience for people of having me be in that persona and then strip it back and be like, well, yeah, I feel these ways about myself, but I also have these moments where I really doubt myself. I think that experience is really emotional. And so I'm aware of that when I'm on stage and I'll be singing Skinny, and I'll be, all of the juxtapositions of that moment are with me during the performance. And it is sometimes very cathartic, and sometimes it can be a little triggering. And it's my job in taking care of myself is to make sure that I always, speak about these things in ways that are comfortable and that are within my boundaries. Sometimes people say some crazy stuff to me afterwards at merch, and people put their feet in their mouths. And, it's been a learning experience for me on how to set boundaries as a human while also opening myself up emotionally to people as an artist, and where and how to draw those lines.
Yeah, and I guess that's something that comes with experience and
yeah, it's kind of a trial by fire situation, man. Like, you realize somebody said something to you didn't like, and you're like, all right, like, for example, I sing the song Skinny, right? I do the whole rigmarole and tell this whole sad story about me going out. It's a true story, going out after COVID, feeling really not having a good weekend. And then I was with a friend and I was telling her about it. And that's where the song Skinny came from. And I used to tell that story and then go into the song Skinny. Everybody cried, and then we moved on. And now what I do is I tell the story about Skinny. I pretend I'm about to start the song, and I pause and I stop, and I literally take 10 seconds and I go, I just want everyone to know I think I'm really hot. I think I'm hot. I'm not worried about it. I look amazing. Look at this dress I'm wearing. I look so awesome. And what I'm doing is, I was getting so many comments from older men at the end of the shows being like, well, I just want to let you know, like, don't worry, like, I think you're sexy. And I'd be like, yeah, I freaking know. Brad, yes. I was aware that your 70-year-old ass was into this. I wasn't worried. And so I think that that's a very good example of like editing in, like, that's experience. I've learned that when I sing Skinny, I need to tell people that I like myself, because it reduces the amount of comments people feel free to make to me after the show. But yeah, I think that as a woman performer, you're objectified anyway. I have a body that people tend to extra objectify as like an hourglass woman. And then I have a song about my body. And it, like, the point of the song, like, flies over these men's head of like, the entire goal of this is that my value is not attached to my body. It's not about me needing you to tell me, don't worry, it's okay, because the patriarchy still thinks you're hot. It's like, no. The whole goal is like not giving a fuck what the patriarchy thinks. It's not, it's all right because, grandpa still thinks I've got it.
When you had written the song, was there ever a point where you felt that it was like too personal to put out, or that you didn't want to share it?
No, but I got feedback from some women in my life to not put it out. So I had some women that I know that I don't think have good relationships with food. Mm-hmm. I think it was out of love. I think I have some people in my life that could not imagine ever going on stage and being like, hi, I'm fat. Like people like couldn't imagine. To them, it was the most horrifying thing somebody could do. And so they felt like I was asking for critique and commentary, and they were worried about how that would damage me. And I think that what I have understood is like there is a power in I love saying stuff on stage that like you're not supposed to talk about. It's like my favorite thing to do, because it's like there's all these rules about what we're allowed to talk about, and I enjoy pushing the boundaries of what those things are supposed to be. Obviously in this kind of way. Like I also have a song on my album that's about mental health, and it's not the shiny side, it's the not shiny side. And I think there's something deeply gratifying about talking about those things. So with Skinny, I always knew, I knew from the minute we wrote it, it was going to be really powerful. I don't feel that way about all my music all the time, but I wrote that song and I was like, holy shit, this song, people are going to lose it. I sang it the day I wrote it. I sang it on stage, which is it was a coincidence. And you're like not supposed to do that because you're like mess up the song, but I just had to sing it. I had to sing it. It connected. It connected with the audience immediately. We knew we had something on our hands. Yeah.
And just to have that song open up your album, I've listened to your album in full, and having that song at the beginning, it just sort of brings this like vulnerability in and invites everyone into the story right away. And
thank you.
It's like we're there with you right from the start.
I'm glad. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I shouldn't have listened to the song at the beginning, because now I'm all like emotional.
That's good. That's the whole point. That's songwriting for you.
Yeah. And so I want to talk more about you as a singer and as a performer. So you've obviously been touring a lot. What sort of actions did you take along your journey that led you to opening for all these big artists and these big crowds and being on tour?
It's a really complicated question because it's very competitive. It is not an easy thing to do. I would say like a short answer is I think there's two questions. There's how did I actually get the gigs, and why am I good at it? Those are they're almost like separate questions. The reason I'm good at this, I think, is because I kind of cut my teeth in performing. I was a wedding singer for like 2 years, and I still am involved in and very actively ran an anti-bullying program. It's like a school assembly that are songs I wrote that are about bullying and self-identity and all these things. I've played at over 100 schools, and I when I was at Berkeley, I kind of found this niche, and I really pushed very intensely, not really being really sure where it would lead, but it was getting me to sing my original songs in front of live audiences. And what was interesting, I did hundreds and hundreds of gigs that were weddings or this anti-bullying program. And what's really interesting about both of those experiences is that they were not about me. Weddings are about the bride, and the school assemblies are obviously about the children. They're not about me, right? Mm-hmm. And what that did was it taught me that the shows aren't about me. at this, and like, let me tell you, it freaking feels like they're about you when all your family flies in and the press is there and your manager's there and everybody's in the green room and like, it's all these things. But I have had experiences that like when I walk onto that stage, I do a better job than most, or I do a better job than I would have if I hadn't been a wedding singer or done this anti-bullying program at it not being about me. So you ask me like, how do I put the feelings aside? It's like, I tap into the amount of feelings I need, and then for the audience, and then I don't do more than that because it's not about me. And like when I was a wedding singer, you know, there's nothing worse than nobody dancing at your wedding. And like, I learned at like 20 years old, like you go out and you grab grandpa and you're singing to grandpa because you're like, I got to get people onto this dance floor or like this bride's going to cry. And what that taught me is that like, it's truly about the audience. And I don't mean that in like a cheesy way. I mean that in like a literal, that's your job. You are here to entertain them. That's it. And so I would say that's why I'm good at it. I personally think that's why I'm good at it. I think that the way I booked these, it is really hard. I did a million shows, and I think I literally might have actually been on the before I booked any of these big shows, I was on the Kelly Clarkson show. That's how like competitive, like I did American Idol. I had all these things, and you still don't book anything. And like everyone and everyone's mother wants to be on a tour. So there has to be a reason why it's you and not other people. And you have to be willing to take hundreds, thousands of rejections. And you also have to understand that nobody's going to do you a favor. So like, that person killed themselves to build that fan base. Why should they share that fan base with you? What are you bringing to the table? Mm-hmm. And we all think our music is great. So everyone's music's great. Everyone's a great singer. So what are you bringing to the table? And again, realizing it's not about you and pitching from the perspective and like being humble enough to understand that like, it's crazy. I'm doing this arena tour coming up. I don't know if you saw my socials, which is going to be sick and crazy. It's like nuts. You know what I mean? And like, I booked that after doing 3 runs at, 3,000, 2,000 person rooms. And that was crazy that I got that. And like, me and my team worked very hard for every opportunity I had. And then we absolutely did our best to take 100% advantage of every single ounce of opportunity that was there. And even then you go months with getting all no's and nobody wants you on the tour. And it's devastating. Like it can look on my socials like it's win after win after win. Well, there were months in between those wins where I was like, I think that was the last win. I think it's never going to happen again. And it feels like that. And it has been really helpful to me to have a team that is full of people who are more optimistic than me, because I am pessimistic, and you can't be in this industry. You have to have faith. And I have people on my team that are better at that than me. So it's good, because they'll be like, no, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And then something comes through. So it's hard. It's really hard. And I know I told you guys in class, for the listeners, I taught Emma this summer at songwriting camp. And something I told the students is like, you got to do open mics, and then you got to try to, play your own show for an hour to 10 people. And then you got to email every band that comes to play the 50-person room and say, I can bring 7 people. I can guarantee 7 tickets. And whatever you do, like, you got to build up from literally 0. And if you can do 5, then if somebody playing a 50-person room, 5 tickets is helpful. So if you can sell 5 tickets, that's what you lead with, because it's what you're bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm. On tour, or in a situation where you're playing a lot of shows or just doing a lot of rehearsals and things, how do you maintain your voice so that you don't burn out vocally?
It's really important. I actually had vocal surgery now 6 or 7 years ago. I was very sick, undiagnosed for years. I had like really bad tonsillitis, and I have such a strong voice that I was singing through it, and I kept getting misdiagnosed because you're not supposed to sing at all. And so what happened was I got my tonsillectomy out But by then I developed really bad habits, really bad singing and speaking, probably more importantly, speaking habits, to compensate for the fact that I had these giant tonsils in my throat. Well, they got rid of the tonsils, but I still had those bad habits, and it developed into me having a nodule. And I honestly, when my voice was good, I had this like beautiful raspy voice. People couldn't believe I was getting vocal surgery. They're like, what? But I knew I couldn't get up every night and sing. And vocal surgery is no small deal. It is a huge deal. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but going through that experience made me hyper vigilant about my voice. And so I'll tell you something speech therapists told me during this process. Your voice is like a battery. You only get so much of it during the day. If you have to sing in the morning and sing at night, you can't talk to your friends in the middle of the day. You can't call your mom and have an hour-long conversation on the phone. That's your battery. You need to save your battery for when you need to use it, right? If you go over your battery, you need to go under your battery the next day. And the truth is, if you keep going over your battery, you're going to end up hurting your voice, right? So I would say like vocal rest is a huge part of this. Similarly, people warm up before they sing. People need to be cooling down. You would never run a marathon and then just like sit down. You would always stretch. You need to be cooling down, and you can Google, there's like YouTube cool downs. You need to be warming up and you need to be cooling down. You would never go on stage and just like try and play the guitar, right? You would have practiced it. You should be practicing your vocals in the same way. It's a muscle, and it's a muscle memory pathway. And so I'm in this place right now where I've got my headline tour coming up, and I've been singing the same songs as an opener. So my muscle pathways are really strong for those songs, and I need to get into the rehearsal studio and practice the other ones so that I'm not singing it on adrenaline for the first time in front of a crowd. It needs to be rehearsed. So yeah, I would say it's like, treat it like you would a sport. You're putting the same amount of exhaustion on the muscles in your throat during your hour-long show as you would have during an hour-long soccer game. And so prepare and then take care of those muscles in a similar fashion that you would have if you had a soccer game. How would you think about that?
Mm-hmm. Really, really good advice. So we're nearing the end of our interview. So I have two final questions. So one is, do you have any advice or resource that you would give to your younger self when you were beginning your journey?
The advice I give younger people, is because I didn't know it at the time, is I'll give two things that you've probably heard me say this, because I tell all young people this, is that opportunities are not ladders, they're mirrors. This is a Casey original. If you hear, this is a Casey original quote. But opportunities are not ladders, they're mirrors. And what I mean by that is, I have booked this arena tour. I'm very excited. It is an opportunity I'm taking incredibly seriously. And like I said, I always try to milk every last ounce of opportunity out of these opportunities, right? But I booked this because I can do it. They wouldn't have booked me if they're like, she probably can do it. I can do it. That's why I booked it. There's going to be things to learn. I need to take it very seriously. I'm practicing all the time, blah, blah, blah. My team, we're very involved, but it's a mirror. It's showing me what I am qualified for. It's not leading me to what I'm qualified for. Mm-hmm. And the reason that this is important is that this industry is full of people who can try to take advantage of you. And so if one manager wants to work with you, it's not an opportunity to being somebody who's good enough to being managed. You are good enough. If that person wants to manage you, you are good enough for that, and other people would want to manage you. And so I don't say that so that you don't take the opportunities seriously. Opportunities are really hard to come by. But I say that so you can have some perspective in confidence in yourself. The day before I walked on stage for this first James Morrison show, and the day after, I was just as good of a singer. I had learned some things, I had experience, I could grow, but I was just as good. I was ready for it that day because I was booked on it, because I played a million other shows in preparation. And so when things happen, and let's say you let's say you get accepted to Berkeley and you also get the opportunity to, your friend is in LA and they got a record deal and they want you to come out and write. And you say, okay, well, I'll never get this opportunity again. It's like, you probably will. If that person wants to do that with you, you're really good. So you need to always make decisions. I guess what I'm trying to say is don't operate from a scarcity mindset. It's like if you were dating and you met like a great guy who's super into you. That means you're great too, right? That means there are like other great people that would think you're great, and you don't want to. I'm not encouraging you to like throw away this great person, but it gives you perspective. It's like, okay, well, this person's great. That means there are great people out there who want to date me. So if it doesn't work out with this person, I'll be fine because I'm great. That proved I'm great. I'm great. I'll find somebody else. And similarly, it's like if you get a call from American Idol and they want you to come on, and it would mean you have to drop out of school and you're in blah, 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 or something happens, you should obviously weigh that opportunity very seriously. But if you're good enough to get a call from American Idol, you're good enough to get a call from The Voice the next year. And keep in mind that if there's multiple fish in the sea kind of thing, this industry can make you feel like if you don't kill yourself or don't make yourself uncomfortable. Let's say there's some person that wants to work with you and they're really well connected, but they make you uncomfortable. They don't treat you appropriately. They are inappropriate. And they say, I'm your only option. This is it. No one's ever going to see you like I do. Don't work with that person. Yeah. Right? That's what I'm talking about. If one person sees your talent, that somebody else will too, if you keep working. And so if somebody makes you feel scared or disrespected or gives you a queasy feeling, you don't have to work with them. There's somebody else there that will want to work with you who will respect you.
Mm-hmm. It's like taking the good opportunities, but also not being afraid to let go of the things that just aren't working.
Exactly. Yeah. Because the reason that opportunities exist is because you're great. So
yeah. That's really good advice. Everything you say, I'm just like, wow, this is so great.
I mean, I've been at this for a long time. You know what I mean? I have a lot of experience talking here. So that's what I would tell my younger self. Is I would tell my younger self to walk away from those people who didn't make me feel respected earlier, because other people would see what they were seeing, but other people would see it and say, like, if you should have management or people who work with you that say, you're so talented and I can't wait to help the world see that. Not, you're so talented and I'm the only one who's ever going to realize that. Those are different. Yeah. They're different. And don't work with those people.
Yeah, 'cause people like that, they make it about them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a control tactic. If you had a boyfriend and he said, I know you're beautiful, but the rest of the world thinks you're ugly. I'm the only one who will ever love you. You would know, I probably shouldn't date this guy. He seems terrible. But in the music industry, you can kind of fall into those relationships, professional relationships, kind of easily. And I think it's important to have that sense of confidence and that sense of groundedness that, like, no, if one person is realizing this in me, somebody else will too, and you aren't my only option.
Yeah. How did you build you mentioned that you have a team, obviously a team of people for your career, but how did you build that in the beginning?
It was really hard. I'm not like a Nepo baby at all. I'm not connected at all. My parents, literally, I told my mom when I was like 10, I wanted to take voice lessons. And she's like, what's that? And I was like, she's like, you mean choir? I'm like, no, I mean voice lessons. She's like, I don't think that's a thing. I mean, like, it's little things. Like I filmed like a music video with this a person I still work with. I was on the phone with her the other day, actually, which is hilarious. Very legitimate person in LA who I made a Facebook status and was like, can anybody connect me with it? I'm looking for music video people. And I got connected through someone. Now here's the thing. My music was really good. So I wasn't just being like, help me. I went to Berkeley. Number one, I went to Berkeley. My producer that produces all my music, I went to Berkeley with him. I was on a call yesterday with somebody who's building my like professional rig that my band is going to play with. That's very complicated and I don't know how to do it. I went to Berkeley with him too. He's one of my friends, right? Mm-hmm. So the first thing I did was find peers that were at my level. When I was 18 and figuring out how to do this, I made friends with other talented, hardworking 18-year-olds who were figuring it out. So that's step number one, is you need to find people who are at your level, but you think have the same work ethic and opinions on quality and creativity as you. That's the most important thing. Then I would say, in my opinion, maintain relationships out of being a genuine person. I think like you can't kiss butt to all the way to Hollywood. I couldn't do it. Some people have. I couldn't do it. I think there's a difference between maintaining a professional relationship and like kissing ass. So like have friends that you respect and are excited by creatively. Work with those people. Create music, perform, be in creative spaces. That's number one. I think that's the only thing you can control. If you go to a lot of open mics, you're going to meet other people who do what you do, right? Mm-hmm. Do little songwriting competitions in your area. Go on Instagram and ask around. You know, you do soccer. You play soccer on like an area wide league and not a town league, and you say to the girls who go to other high schools, are there any people who produce music at your school? Like, so that's what I mean, like find people on your level. And then be just putting yourself in spaces and be prepared. So like the way I found my manager, it's going to sound really like convoluted, but my guitar teacher and him are related. And I was working with my guitar teacher and I was preparing and I was working on really improving my guitar skill. And I'm quite proud of my guitar skill now. But at the time it was not up to snuff. And I did all this research and I found this person who was very qualified at specifically helping singer-songwriters be better. And I've been working with him, and he'd been kind of by nature listening to my music as I was. It's a lot of the music that's actually on this album. And I knew he tours and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't even know what to ask. I didn't even know what to ask. And I asked Kylie, I was like, I hope this is all right, but there's any chance you'd want to pass this on to X person that I knew he worked with? And he was like, I don't really think that would be the right match. He's like, but I got to tell you, like, there's someone I really think you should meet. And it was my current manager who I've worked with for like 5 years. But that was not the first person I worked with. I'd been managed and left other people who I did not think treated me well. I'd been trying. I'd had PR agencies, and I tried so many things, and I didn't know how to do it. And it was one result of me trying. I kept trying in different areas, and this one worked. And then we like tripled down. You know what I mean? And he's the best. And I'm very lucky. But you just got to try, and but the most important thing you can do is make connections on your own level. Again, this industry is all about the mirror, not the ladder. So you got to work on your mirror. Like, what are you? What is the actual music you're making? What is the actual songs you're writing? What is your actual performance like? Because if no one is going to come down from the heavens and recognize your talent that you haven't even built up yet. You have to build it up first. So find your own peers. I would much rather hear that you got like you and my other students were working with 4 or 5 different people that they knew from high school than finding out that like somebody was working with like a 40-year-old in LA. I'd be like, why does that 40-year-old want to work with you? Like, why isn't that 40-year-old working with me? Why is he working with you? What's going on here? Because that's what I mean when there's that power imbalance and things can get sketchy really fast. So yeah. So anyway, that's my advice.
Yeah, thanks so
Ask
much.
around. I know Facebook status. I really dated myself with the Facebook status thing.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't know how to use TikTok.
Neither do I. So we're going to hire somebody for that.
Yeah. So the last question is, do you have a music recommendation for a playlist?
Yes, I think I sent you something, right?
Yes.
Passenger, I think, what's the song called? Little Birds. Is that right? Is that what it's called?
Beautiful birds.
Beautiful Birds. Oh my God. So this song's freaking gorgeous. I think I sent you the acoustic version because I
I'm
prefer
so
it.
glad that you recommended this song. I also love this song.
Beautiful, really well written. I think it's a really great example of metaphor songwriting, which I think can very easily become heavy-handed, and usually the most effective songwriting, I think, doesn't have metaphors in it, right? People just come out to say what they mean.
Mm.
But when it's done well, when it's done well, it's just stunning. And if we want, we can do a little song analysis here. Let me look up the lyrics to this. But I think what's so beautiful about this song, I think what I think I like most about this song is the last verse. I think is so beautiful. To build a nest, we pecked feathers from our chest, like a book tearing out every page. We weren't to know that these feathers would grow into a beautiful cage. Like, oh my God. And it's like, you learn, right, that these people became like trapped by trying to groom and subtly change themselves to fit with their partner. They became unrecognizable, and something that had been, feathers that are so related to flight and freedom became like a cage. And I think that that's just really, really stunning imagery. I think what's really interesting is even hearing that, like, he goes from a metaphor and uses a new simile within it. So to build a nest, we peck feathers from our chest, like a book tearing out every page. And what you learn from that is, like, a book becomes, like, completely loses its meaning once it starts tearing itself apart. Like, what is a book without pages? It's nothing. So anyway, I love this song, and I hope people listen to it. I love Passenger. He's so talented.
Mm-hmm. So it'll be on our playlist.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Of course, Ellen. Thanks for hitting me up.
Talk to you again.
I know. It's been so nice. Thank you for keeping me in the loop with what you've got going on, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Bedroom Studios podcast. Don't forget to add this podcast to your playlist and to like and follow on Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify at Bedroom Studios Podcast. And also you can follow our playlist of guest music recommendations, as well as the music our guests have created, and all of that will be linked in the description. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.